exalted, the King is exalted, and I will praise him. He is exalted forever, exalted, and I will praise his name. Twyla, it's so great that we can sit down at a piano and take the voice that the Lord has given us, anyone, and just worship him.
It really is, Chris. And if anybody would know about voices, it's you. I am really honored to have this opportunity to introduce you to a few of our friends who are here with us. This is Chris Beatty, and Chris has been a great help and inspiration to many of us in Christian music, including myself. He started at a very young age singing with the Ray Conniff Singers and the Norman Luboff Choir, and even from the age of 20 with the Chicago Symphony. And then he moved on into vocal coaching. He's coached people such as Pat and Debbie Boone, Steve Green, Steve Archer, the second chapter of Acts, Dallas Home. As a matter of fact, Chris, you come from a very musical heritage in your family, don't you? Chris's uncle is a composer named Samuel Barber that many of you may be familiar with as the man who wrote Adagio for Strings, one of the most beautiful works I've ever heard. And Chris and his wife Carol have traveled over the last 10 years really all over the world, sharing the principles that God has shown them for the voice with lots of people just like you and me. And Chris, could you share a little bit about what we're going to be learning today?
You bet. In this next hour, my wife Carol and I will be sharing with you principles and exercises that will help you understand how your voice really works. And we'll be having a special visit, as Twyla said, from Steve Green. Rick Florian from the group Whiteheart will be with us. And most of all, you'll be with us as we have this next time to learn how the voice really works. So, Twyla, if you're ready, let's get started.
Welcome to the Vocal Workout, a systematic teaching from Chris and Carol Beatty that will introduce you to the basic principles of proper vocal development. Let's join Chris and Carol now as they begin.
The human voice, the most unique of all instruments. The only instrument, in fact, that is made up of bones and muscles, and the only instrument that uses its parts for other things. Lungs are used for singing, but they also keep us alive. A guitar is basically just a guitar. A piano, I guess, can also be a piece of furniture, but basically it's just a musical instrument. Well, God has given you something in the voice that is so unique that it can take the heart of the Father and cause you to express it to others. You can love people with your voice. You can express worship unto the King of Kings with your voice. And as you use your voice in daily living, there are right ways to use it and wrong ways to use it. And so we are going to learn the right ways to use it here. I'm going to begin by just letting you get a feel for the different areas we'll be talking through tonight, and then you'll be participating, all of you will be participating. The first area that we're going to talk about, which is the most important, is relationship. Because it is your relationship with the Lord, my relationship with the Lord, that gives me the right to say something of worth. And those that we spend time with and have relationship with are the ones that we tend to reflect. And so, of course, here the relationship with the Lord is the most important. The second area that we're going to talk about is posture. And here Carol is going to share some very unique things. Then we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about breathing. How many of you have been breathing for quite a number of years? Okay. Many of you have been involved in this pursuit already. We're going to talk about tone and audible sound. We're going to talk about projection. How did Jesus project his voice to 5,000 people without a PA? No microphones, no speakers, 5,000, 3,000. He got the job done, and lives were changed. And that's basically what we try to do, isn't it, when we go out and speak something? Whether you're speaking a message of the gospel, or whether you're selling something in a store. You're trying to take something, hopefully, that you believe in, and then convince others of it, and then have a response. When I sing a song, that certainly is what I feel. I have something in my heart, I want you to hear it, and I want you to respond. And the last thing we'll talk about is diction. Because unless it is packaged, unless the message that you have is packaged clearly, nobody can understand it. And it's always a shame. Carol and I hear so much music, and there's so many times when we think, what did he say? And it's not just because we are prehistoric. We're not really that old. But there are numerous times when we say, boy, that was really a good song. And then we pick up the record jacket or the back of the CD, and we have to look at it to see what neat song we just heard. Such should not be the case. Well, let's assume that you understand relationship. And I want you to, this is the first of several phrases we're going to want you to learn. So, honey, why don't you go over to the board. And I want everyone to focus in on this message for a moment. And I want you to say after me, proper preparation prevents poor performance. If you can't say P's, this is the tough one. But let's try it together. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And that's in anything. That's not just in singing or in sports. That's in being a father, being a parent, being a student, being a pastor. Anything you do, the preparation that you put into it allows you to give a good performance in what you're doing. And the Lord wants us to do things with excellence. All right, we have relationship established. That's area number one. We know that we need to prepare. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Honey, why don't you go ahead and change the cards just to get some other principles in our hearts here. Because one of the reasons that we even need to have vocal coaching is because of this truth, and that is muscles have memory. Would you say that with me, please? Muscles have memory. Say it once more. Muscles have memory. What does that mean? Just what it says. What you're doing is what you're becoming. And the more you do it, the more your muscles memorize that. So I just want you to keep those two thoughts in mind as I enter into a new section. Hun, if you want to go be seated at the piano, Carol will be back with us in just a moment. Posture. It's something that when you really think about it, should be so natural. Why should we have to make such a big study of posture? I mean, we're humans, and humans walk around, and it should just be a very natural thing. Well, it is natural if you're 2 years old. And in fact, when you see toddlers learn to walk, here's what you see. They walk around on their toes a lot, don't they, moms? Huh? You know why they walk around on their toes? Because when you're on your toes, you can't slouch. When you're on your toes, it causes you to align the head over the shoulders, and so it keeps you upright. And that's what we're supposed to be. And when little kids walk around and they're just kind of getting good at it, they hold on to furniture and things because they know that it's exciting to be able to balance yourself. I mean, there's just something really neat about it if you watch a kid when he's first starting to balance. And one of the lessons that he learns immediately is that when he puts the head out of alignment with the shoulders and the hips and gets like this, what does the child do? That's exactly right. He falls down. Carol's going to back all this up with scripture in a minute, but I wanted you to have in mind that God made us to function physically with a certain posture. And we'll talk about your seating posture in just a minute here. First, a little bit of scripture. From the book of Genesis, chapter 3, we have one of the most exciting and the most familiar passages of scripture, and it's the Garden of Eden. And Adam and Eve are cruising around an area very much like this with all kinds of wonderful greenery, and to get their provisions, all they have to do is reach out and take them, because they were not meat eaters at that time, and so they were partaking of the fruits of the land. And it was an easy existence. And they were able to get everything from an upright position. Think about that. They were able to just grab it. It wasn't a lot of work. But something happened, and we read about it in Genesis 3:14. This is when the first judgment comes upon mankind. And the Lord God said to the serpent in Genesis 3:14, "Because you have done this, you are cursed above all domestic animals and above every wild living thing of the field." Here it comes. "Upon your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust and what it contains all the days of your life." Now, most of us, when we first hear that, we don't think it's any big deal, because the serpent, what do you think of? What kind of animal do you think of a serpent being? Snake. Yeah, and snakes kind of slither around on the ground, and so you think, well, he wasn't standing up anyway, so that wasn't any big judgment. Well, he was upright before that, and it was a big deal. It was a severe judgment. The serpent was upright, and it was this judgment that caused him to now become as a snake with his face in the dirt. To Adam he said, "Because you have listened and given heed to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it, the ground is under a curse because of you. In sorrow and toil you shall eat of the fruits of it all the days of your life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread until you return to the ground." What does this have to do with posture? Everything. Everything. Because the God who made us and who allowed us in the garden to partake of the fruits of the land said, as part of this judgment, you now will toil in the soil. You will fight thorns and weeds and thistles just to get the nutrients you need to stay alive. And so he who was upright is now broken and crooked and toiling in the soil. And the posture, the physical posture, was broken with that judgment. Relationship was broken. Posture was broken. Many of us, my brothers and sisters, walk around as if we were still in that garden experience. And this is about as upright as we look. We have the New Testament. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says that for those of us who are called and respond to Jesus, that all things become new. The old things are passed away. And that judgment is there, and I'm not saying it hasn't had some effect on us, but the fact is that because of Jesus, we can now be restored to that uprightness of posture that we were born with. This is what man was created with. Honey, why don't you come up and put a little scripture behind that. And while Carol is getting ready, I want you to be thinking about your own posture. Think about your posture today before you came to this time. What was it like? And why was it the way that it was?
Well, we were made to function a certain way, and we need to stand uprightly. When you are bent over like this, you're crushing organs that were not meant to be crushed. They are finding many diseases are caused by poor posture. They're treating migraine headaches with posture exercises. So as we study some things in the Word, let this dwell in you and become flesh. Webster talks about uprightness as being just and honorable, unbribable, incorruptible, erect, like a tree, like goalposts, like an upright vacuum cleaner, like an upright freezer. Upright. We've got some uprights standing around here. The word, as it's talking about uprightness, is primarily talking about obedience to God. But just as out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, out of the abundance of the heart, the posture speaks. And a lot of times, it's a lot louder than your mouth. Have you ever walked into a room and people know that it's been a really hard day for you just by the way you carry yourself? Haven't said a word, have you? But they know. Well, we're going to highlight some scriptures, but I ask you to go home and start looking through Proverbs and Psalms on all the upright scriptures. Okay? Let's go. Deuteronomy 32:3. For I proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God, the rock. His work is perfect, a God of faithfulness and without injustice, righteous and upright is he. Psalm 25:8. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore he, the Lord God, instructs sinners in the way. Psalm 33:3. For the Lord is upright. Psalm 92:15. To declare that the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him. And then the prophet Isaiah refers to the Lord as the upright one. Psalm 140:13 says, surely the righteous will give thanks to thy name. The upright man will dwell in thy presence. Proverbs 2:7. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in uprightness. Proverbs 14:2. He who walks in his uprightness fears the Lord, but the crooked man despises him. Leviticus 26:13 says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, so you would not be their slaves, and I broke the bars of your yoke and made you walk uprightly. Have we been delivered out of Egypt?
Yeah.
We've been delivered out of all kinds of bondages, and that bar has been broken. Psalm 84:11. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord gives grace and glory. No good thing does he withhold from those who walk uprightly. That's a promise from our Creator. Okay, now how do I keep this upright physical posture all day long? Well, we've got a new saying for you, that as you sit, you are to imagine that you're standing from the waist. Can you say that with us? Standing from the waist. That will keep you kind of upright. Why don't we all stand up? And the Word commands us that we are to lift our eyes, that we're to lift our voices, that we are to lift our heads, and the Word commands us that we are to lift our hands unto the Lord. When you lift your hands, you can't slouch, and you will get into perfect posture. So let's try that. Lift our hands. Try to slouch. It doesn't go together, does it? Now slowly let your arms down, but keep your chest and ribs where they are. Relax the shoulders. Shoulders have nothing to do with posture. They're just hanging there. They're not pulled back. They're not pulled up. They're just resting. I think they look a little taller, don't they?
While you're standing there, can you remember the phrase we did in the beginning that started with all those P's? Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Okay, and the second thing we learned, muscles have memory. All right, now you're starting to memorize. You are starting to memorize a different posture. Your muscles are starting to say, oh yeah, this is something different. Are you convinced that this is a good posture? Do you believe that? It really is. This is not a singing posture or a speaking posture. This is the posture that God designed you to have. And again, the example of the small child is where we see it. Children do not slouch. Think about it. Little kids don't slouch. They walk around just happy to be alive, just strutting around, and they just don't go through all the weird insecurities that we do. They haven't learned that yet. May they never. All right, now slowly be seated, but remember to be standing from what? The waist. Standing from the waist up. Right. Okay, let's go on to the next card, hon. Muscles have memory, and this kind of goes along with it. Yeah, we'll ask the question. Some of you might have seen the card, but we'll see how honest you can be here. Practice makes, now what is the usual response? Practice makes perfect. Now, is that really true? If I practice this all day, is that going to make me perfect? No. What if I play the piano with horrible technique, and I just have no idea what I'm doing, and I get worse every day? Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Practice makes permanent. That's an exciting thought, because it will come in and kind of help you remember that whatever you're doing now is what you're becoming. Practice makes permanent. And if I start walking around like this, even for 5 minutes a day, pretty soon it'll be 10 minutes and a half hour, and pretty soon this will be who I am. So from your sitting position, go ahead and slowly lift your hands over your head. And feel what this does. It positions the head over the shoulders, over the hips, over the knees and ankles when you're standing. Right now it's just head, shoulders, and hips. Now relax your arms. And again, you're starting to practice the proper posture. So make sure that as soon as you get up in the morning, the first thing you should do is go in and stand in front of the mirror and say, "Practice makes permanent." So you don't want to do this while you're driving. That's why we tell you to do it at home first. And pretty soon your body will start to adjust to that. And as you'll learn as we go along this evening, there are a lot of other benefits and byproducts to standing in that upright posture. Let's think through the posture again, because it is so foundational to what's going on. The head is balanced over the shoulders. Say with me, the head is balanced over the shoulders. Now point like I just did. The head is balanced over the shoulders. Well, some of you might be saying, yeah, but Chris and Carol, I'm involved in some kind of funky music. And it's not the kind of music where you stand up and go, some beautiful Italian or German or French. I mean, I'm walking all over the stage, I'm dancing. Doesn't matter. The head still balances over the shoulders. It's in basketball. It's in rock music. It's in anything you do, because as soon as you throw the head forward of that spinal balance point, you start to do a lot of harmful things to your body. You put stress on the neck, stress in the upper back and throughout the spinal column. You put tension in the larynx. And in fact, I can just sing a simple expression here and you will be able to feel the difference. Pam, would you come up and let me sing just a little bit of Holy Ground. Okay, I'm just going to sing it, and since I wrote the song, I hate to abuse it, but better to abuse my own song than somebody else's, I guess. And let's just start this in C. I'm going to start singing it and then adjust my posture. And I want you to feel in your hearts and hear with your ears what happens to the tone just by adjusting posture. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. For the Lord is present, and where He is holy. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. Okay, we better stop it now. I'm going to start worshiping, and that's going to be the end of this thing. Isn't that great to just kind of get caught up in music? But you see, if I really had started it and sung the whole song like this, it's not that you couldn't worship. Kermit does very well like this. But it does begin to put filters between the heartfelt message and what people hear. And the more filters you put between them, inappropriate dress, poor posture, straining in the throat, any of these things become an obstacle to the listener receiving that message. See, again, the perfect example is the little child. Little children can take a heartfelt message and project it seemingly to the whole world for hours and hours and hours, and they don't get laryngitis or pharyngitis. They don't get sore throats from it. They're just crying, you know, the diaper's wet, I want mommy and daddy, I'm scared, whatever it is. But they just take this heartfelt message and boom it to the world until there's a response, don't they? And they get the response. And boy, that tone projects in that child. Well, I want the same thing. If I'm singing, "These are holy hands, He's given us holy hands. He works through these hands, and so these hands are holy." I want you and you and you to understand that God has given us tools of ministry in our hands. And anything that I do that distracts from that just tears apart the message. And so it's not for the sake of professionalism, it's for the sake of just simplicity and clarity that we're talking about these vocal techniques. Again, the baby is the greatest example. Let's say once more together, practice makes permanent. Once more, practice makes permanent. And we all know that muscles have memory. Again, muscles have memory. And of course, it's obvious that Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Our guest for these next few minutes is Steve Green, a Christian artist and a friend of ours, and I believe Steve has some things to share that will help you understand what we're doing in this time. Carol, why don't you go ahead and start with the first question.
Okay. Steve, what different styles of music have you sung during your lifetime?
A lot of styles. Starting in college with choral music, getting into a little bit of classical music. Then traveled with the group Truth for 2 years. Worked with the Gaithers for about 4.5 years. During that time, got very involved in studio work. A lot of radio, television commercials, all styles. Sang some rock and roll. Traveled with, was in the group Whiteheart for a while. So I have a wide appreciation for a lot of styles, and I've not done them all well, but I've had to sing many styles at different times.
Now, did you study voice formally, or was this all natural talent?
Formally. I really started in college, where my voice teacher saw the, I guess, the undiscovered abilities that God had built into me, and pushed me to take some lessons and spend some time with him, and those were very valuable years that have affected everything that I'm doing now.
What do you think would happen with the kind of schedule you have now if you tried to do what you're doing and had not studied voice?
I don't think I'd be able to have done this. You know, it does increase stamina, not just for singing, but also for speaking. I am really in this for the long haul. I want to be a communicator of the gospel through music and speaking and all that for a lot of years. I don't want to make a splash, and just right now, I really want to be a lifelong communicator. So these lessons will help me do that.
Well, a few months ago, we were in Dallas, the three of us, and we were doing just kind of a mini voice tune-up with you. I remember you were standing up against the wall and checking posture, and we talked about breathing, things that you've studied many times before, but just kind of needed to be reminded of.
Right.
Did that have an impact?
It helps, and it did help me. I'm forgetful, as everybody is, and we need reminding. Even things that we know, we forget. Not only vocally, but spiritually. You know, I go to church because I've forgotten something, and the pastor says something, and go, oh, I knew that, but I forgot it. So, yes, that helped me. I was conscious of posture and standing correctly, and which helps, you know, freeing up my apparatus to sing correctly. So it is of great value, and what, you know, your responsibility is in the body of Christ and with anybody is to coach and remind people of what they need to be doing, and it's a very important necessity.
How do you prepare for a concert? Do you warm up vocally? Are there special foods or not? Let's not talk about the spiritual side, more just the physical side right now. How do you prepare physically for a concert?
I rest. We really try to space out concerts so that they're not back to back to back. In fact, starting this fall, we won't have any back-to-back concerts. From now on, we've just scheduled that way. Also, I exercise. I use a rowing machine. That's been a real big help in strengthening the upper body. Breathing is so key to singing, and having the lung capacity and the strength really has helped. So I exercise well. A lot of liquids, drinking a lot, and I warm up about, I would say, 20 to 25 minutes before the concert, doing starting off easy and working up to where I can sing full range, not hard, but just making sure that my voice feels loose and warm, and I can go out. I'm not going to damage anything.
You don't just kind of save it to the last minute and then go out and blow your brains out.
No.
Right. Athletes can't do that, can they?
No. No, it's stretching. It's like trying to run a 100-yard dash without stretching. It can't be done.
So. What about after a concert? Do you cool down like an athlete kind of warms down or cools down after a concert?
My habit is to stay after the concert and talk to people. So I just have to be aware of not damaging that and overdoing it. But I'm usually at the concert about an hour afterwards, talking to people, greeting them, counseling,
Yeah.
praying with people. And then I go rest,
Yes.
go to bed.
Good.
I don't stay up and...
Yeah. Last question. Of some of the basics, breathing, posture, diction, things like that, is there something that you try to just keep reviewing in your mind, something that could potentially be a weakness with you, that you just want to do better?
I'd say all three of the ones you mentioned. Posture, because slumping or putting the neck forward just weakens the whole singing
Yeah.
technique. So posture, and you've been great for that. You have good posture, and you know, I remember you and remember my posture. Breathing, remembering to take deep, long breaths instead of little pants. And then also placement has been very important.
Yes.
Just remembering that not to strain the vocal cords, not to put undue pressure on them.
Yes.
And singing should be a real joy
Yes.
and not a great burden. There's a lot of work involved, but those are things I try to remember
Yes.
and think about, and you need to help me.
Yeah, and I will.
Okay.
Well, I think we've learned something here, haven't
Sure
we?
have.
All right.
Good, and we thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Chris,
our
very
brother.
much. Thanks, Carol.
Look forward to seeing you soon.
Great.
Let's all of us stand for a moment, and we're going to sing through that first verse. Let's go into D. The first verse of what I just sang. This is holy ground, we're standing on holy ground, for the Lord is present, and where he is holy. This is holy ground, we're standing on holy ground, for the Lord is present, and where he is holy. And I want you to think about your posture. Do you think we should give them some helps to keep their posture? Why don't you take your mic and you can maybe install some helps. First help coming up.
Now, if you would take your hand and place it back here, there's a string there. Okay, and just gently pull on your string to lift you up, like a marionette. And that string is at the back part of your head, so it's pulling your chin down, not up, down. So you're looking straight ahead.
Okay.
Okay, got that string? Okay.
We have help number one.
Help number 2, please. The second string has been installed, and that is here, top of your collarbone, and it goes up past your nose, not out, past your nose. There you go. Okay, so now you have 2 strings. Sorry, guys. That should help remind them.
All right. So when you leave here now, you have permanently installed in you 2 strings. So if you start to slouch, the Holy Spirit just has to go, and you'll be in your upright posture again. Okay, key of D. Those of you who don't know it, you'll catch on to it quickly. Most of you, I think, know it. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. For the Lord is present. For the Lord is present, and where he is holy. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. For the Lord is present. For the Lord is present, and where he is holy. Good. Now just feel that upright posture. Go ahead and lift up on your strings again. Feel that you, as a child of the King, are taking that position, which is your position. Wonderful. Go ahead and slowly be seated. It's looking good. It's feeling a lot more secure from here. I think that you're recognizing what your posture is to be. Well, we're going to move quickly into the next area, which is based upon this area, and that is the area of breathing. And again, our most perfect example is, guess who? The babies. What living being has more perfect breathing than a baby? A baby can take in a breath and just their little tummies balloon out. You know what I mean? I mean, it literally looks like a balloon when a baby breathes. The abdomen moves as far away from the spine as possible. Think about that. The abdomen moves as far away from the spine as possible. And when that happens, a vacuum is set up in the chest cavity and the thorax, and the negative air pressure here causes the lungs to go like this. They get huge like a balloon. So you have these two elastic balloons expanded in the chest cavity. And then when you open your mouth and give place, that comes out through the nose and the mouth and projects your message. It's all so easy.
But Chris,
Yes.
we've been told to hold our tummies in.
Hold our tummies in. That's right, because we are all to be a size 1. What happens when you hold in your tummy and try to breathe?
You can't breathe correctly.
Yeah,
You'll just breathe.
yeah, that's right. So, in other words, some of the fashions that even the television says is all right are not real swift, huh?
Correct.
Yeah. Anything that is so tight in your clothing that does not allow you expansion in the abdomen, you should not be wearing, because you will be forced into chest breathing. If the abdomen can't expand, that's what you do. Not very attractive and very ineffective for singers. It will just destroy the singing. Should we talk through the breathing with them? Okay, why don't you stand over there? You can do it for this bunch. I'll stand here. And we're going to talk through what happens when you breathe correctly. First of all, the posture is established. The head is balanced over the what? Shoulders. Okay, and when you're standing up, it's right through the hips, the knees, the ankles, and you should be able to draw a line down there. When I was first studying voice, my head was balanced over my toes, and I spent most of my voice lessons up against a wall. I'd come in and say, "Hi, Dr. Ringel." He'd say, "Hi, Chris," and he'd point, and I'd have to stand up against the wall for the entire lesson because I was just so used to this. But pretty soon I realized this was the best. It felt better. And one of the reasons is that when you stand uprightly and receive more breath, what happens in your brain?
The oxygen gets to your brain. You think better.
Yeah, you think better. You can actually get better grades by standing up straight and sitting up straight. I'm serious. We have kids that we've worked with students and just worked on the posture, and they come back a few weeks later and they're doing better in school because there's more oxygenation to the brain. Okay, so we have the posture established. Your brain says, "I need to take a breath." What does the head do? Nothing. It just stays balanced there. What does the chest do when you're taking a big breath?
Nothing.
Oh, that's not very exciting. That's because the chest is already in position, isn't it? Because of posture. Okay. Taking in a big breath, the chest is just sitting here. Surely there must be some movement somewhere. What do the ribs do?
Nothing.
Again, nothing. So the bone structure, chest and ribs, are just established in that upright posture. This is part of the environment. The ribs go wide. The chest is resting in the upright position. So far, we've taken a breath and nothing here has moved. I'll find something. What happens in the abdomen when we take in a breath?
It gets big.
The abdomen gets huge, and that's what little babies are so free to do. You know, they'll walk around with their protuberant abdomens. And that's what we're going to do right now. So I want you to put your hand on your tummy. And I want you to think about this. Most of you have been doing it fairly correctly anyway, especially since you started cleaning up your posture a little bit. So with the hand on the abdomen, leaving the chest still and the rib cage still, I want you to relaxedly take in a breath, but don't lift the chest up. It's already up. And just allow the waist area to tighten. And then when you blow the breath out, the abdomen gets smaller again. You take in a breath, the abdomen moves away from the spine. You blow the breath out, and it comes back in. Yeah, see how natural that is? The chest doesn't move, ribs don't move, because they don't need to move. Now, there's several things we can do to let you feel this even more strongly. Should we have them do that kind of funny exercise? Yeah, let's go ahead and stand up again. This is kind of a fun one. This is an exercise where you're not quite standing and you're not quite sitting down. This is one of our more sophisticated exercises. And I want you to start to sit down, and before you hit the chair, freeze in an almost sitting position. Okay, we're going to almost sit down. Oh, and put your hands on your knees. Now, in this position, you'll be able to feel what really happens in the abdomen. Take in 2 quick breaths like this. And now blow them out quickly. Take 2 breaths in. Blow them out. In. Out. And come back to an upright position. Could you feel the abdomen doing the work? You can feel that exaggerated expansion in the abdomen and then that contraction to help push the breath out when you're exhaling. Let's check posture as long as you're up with hands lifted. Remember, the strings are lifting you into position as you do this. Go up on your toes a little bit. Up on your own toes. There you go. Thought I heard a yell back there. Let the arms come down slowly. The chest and ribs remain in just that position. Now, go ahead and be seated, except for this gentleman here. Everybody be seated. Why don't you come on up here, stand here, and face this direction. Now, this innocent victim, I just want you to see it isn't just something that happens with us in the breathing. And your name is?
Gary Boren.
Okay, Gary Boren. I want you to put your hand on your abdomen and just think about what we've said here. We've said the head is stable, balanced over the shoulders. Okay, chest is still, ribs are still, and I want you with me to do some semi-exaggerated breaths as we go like this. Take in the breaths, blow them out. See, it expands to draw it in, compresses it, expands. Yeah, chest is absolutely stable. His rib cage is still. Good. And relax that. Good. Could you feel could you feel any other expansion taking place anywhere than in the front of the tummy area?
Not as much as right here.
Okay, this is where it's most pronounced, isn't it? Okay, go ahead and be seated. Thank you very much. So we could see that this is when you eliminate poor posture, this just kind of happens. And if I have to suddenly project a message loudly across the room, hey, 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 this does the job. Or I can speak very quietly, very gently, and you can still hear it. And this is still the energy source. Breath. Do you know that in New Testament Greek, the word for breath and the word for spirit is the same word? It's pneuma, P-N-E-U-M-A. Pneuma means breath or spirit. What is God saying? We receive life every time we breathe in. What do you call a person who has not received breath for 10 or 20 minutes? Dead. That's exactly right. There's nothing more precious to us than breath. And in fact, if you're without it even for several minutes, you will start to get anxious and panicky. We've got to have breath. Breath is spirit. New Testament. Old Testament Hebrew, ruach is the word. It means breath or spirit. Same thing, Old Testament or New Testament. So God is saying to us, this is something you need to receive. This is life. Now let's take this a little further. When Jesus was on the cross, he gave up his spirit, right? The guys on either side of him died from what? What did people die from when they were crucified? Suffocation, asphyxiation. They died from lack of breath. That's very significant, that as we stand uprightly before the Lord in our daily walk, doing whatever we do for a living, we are receiving that breath. If we don't, to whatever degree you are slouched or broken in your daily life, to that degree you are inhibiting that breath, that spirit, that life that God provides from coming into your body. So it's absolutely essential, not as a singer, not as a speaker, but just as a human, that you would avail yourself by proper posture to that wondrous air, that breath, that spirit that God has given us. Okay, let's continue to talk about our breathing here. Okay, we've got the head going over the shoulders. Chest and ribs are still and the abdomen is moving. What else is going to move to help us breathe, other than the abdomen?
Your sides.
The sides. Who would ever have thought such a thing? Do you breathe with your sides? Well, let's find out. Put your hands in your sides. Just stick them in there, below the rib cage, above the hips,
Under the belt.
under the belt. Push in there, take in a quick breath, and see if your sides jump out. Quick, gasping breath. Once more. Could you feel that? The sides do jump out, don't they? In other words, they need to be expanded for that breath. And there's one more really critical area that you can feel when you breathe. And what's that last area, hon?
The back.
The back. And what can they do to feel that? What normal thing do they do probably every day that expands the back?
Yawning.
Yawning, yeah. If you yawn, your back expands tremendously. And now that we've said the word, of course, it's, we can probably get a good shot of about, a lot of people yawning. Let's stand up. I want you to feel this. When you yawn, what is your body saying? That you need more oxygen, right? Okay, that's an alarm that goes off. I need oxygen now. What happens? Well, the chest, if it's collapsed, will suddenly expand, but with you and your new posture, it's already up. The sides, the back, abdomen will all expand, but the first thing to really be triggered is that the back goes way out. Put your hands on the small of your back, right around the waist area. Squeeze in there a little bit so you can feel what's happening. Stand very tall with both strings lifting you uprightly, and let's all pretend that we're going to yawn. Oh. Could you feel that back expand? It really did, didn't it? Let's do that once more. If you don't have a real yawn waiting in the wings there, you can do a pretend yawn. Oh. Oh, what? Sure good imitation of a yawn, wasn't it? When you yawn, your throat drops open in such a wonderful way. It's so relaxing to the throat. The back expands, the sides expand, the rib cage is just really secured in that wide position, and you receive an abundance of oxygen, which is that life that we've been talking about. So remember that yawn. Every time you yawn, remember to suddenly think about, oh yeah, that's God's way of quickly and efficiently filling me with that oxygen that I need. Go ahead and be seated. Okay, we have some other things for you to, let's go ahead and go to the next one. We need to do that because we didn't use that, so we need to reinforce what we've said. Can you hold that up a little bit? So why don't you put your mic down, just let others be able to see that. This is a significant drawing. A Rembrandt it is not, but effective it is. Think about this with your posture. The concept of the plumb line. And of course there is a whole scriptural teaching we can do on the plumb line too. But giving yourself to be something to be aligned with. It's a wonderful feeling, that plumb line feeling. And then the next card behind that is really what we're talking about now. And that's kind of what you feel like. The idea when you take a breath is that you would feel that the abdomen, the sides, the back, everything just becomes enormous. And in my singing, I've done a lot of different styles. I started out in classical music, singing German and French and Italian and Russian and Spanish, working with the Chicago Symphony and the Lyric Opera, and realized at age 19 that was getting to be a bit much for my brain to be singing all these things that I really didn't relate to, and yet realizing that kind of preparation was magnificent. So I went in and started singing with some pop groups. And I found that when I was in Las Vegas, singing with the Ray Conniff Singers and the Norman Luboff Choir and the K-Star Show, that it was exactly the same technique. Nothing was changed except the musical style. And then I started doing more studio work and realized it's just the same thing. Whether it's Bach or rock, it's just the same technique, unless you're just absolutely screaming. And even if you're doing a rock style, there are correct ways or semi-correct ways that you can do it, causing a minimal of strain on the voice. And so this idea of breathing, of just feeling every time you take a breath, everything from here down just gets huge. I can feel the waistband expand. The abdomen goes out, the back goes out, the sides go out, and no matter what kind of music I'm doing, that's what I want to feel. And it's a very secure feeling. Because when you're secure in your breathing, you don't get panicky about what's happening. A lot of people say, gosh, I just get so nervous, how can I overcome those fears? And I'll say, well, how secure are you in your breathing? They say, well, I don't know, I never think about my breathing. Well, they don't take very big breaths, and so they get up there and they start to get anxious because of lack of oxygen. And so just learning to do these breathing exercises, as we've started here, while keeping the chest and ribs absolutely still, is a wonderful way to prepare yourself. Let's sing a bit of that song again, sitting down this time. We're just going to do a little bit. Let's go into E, Pam. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. You're sitting, but we'll sing standing. And I want you, every time you take a breath, to feel like there's just a huge, vast cavern that opens up down here to receive that breath. This is holy ground. Now fill, we're standing on holy ground. Now fill, for the Lord is present, and where He is home. Okay, now we're going to move into something new as we continue to sing this. Honey, let's prepare the throats for relaxation. Keep that song in mind, keep the breathing in mind, but Carol's going to give you one more thing to be thinking about.
Okay, if you would take your hand and put it on your throat, get to know it, feel what's there. Now let's say mm-hmm. 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 Let's swallow. Swallow again and feel what's happening. Now let's say mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's the difference? What are you feeling when you say mm-hmm? And what do you feel when you swallow? Movement. Okay? When you sing and speak, all you should feel is vibration. No local muscular manipulation. Now, with that in mind, let's count from 1 to 10 silently. Okay, now let's put some sound to that.
Was that pretty relaxed that time when you did it? Throat's really relaxed, isn't it? Okay. Now we're going to put the sound to it.
Remember what we're striving for here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Could you feel some movement there? Okay. Well, we want to have just that vibration there. Let's blow some air through there. And let's count again silently. Was that getting more relaxed?
Let's try it on the song now. Checking with your throat again. We'll start singing in E, holy ground. And what you're desiring to feel in the throat is vibration, yes, manipulation, no. Put a hand on your own throat. Feel it as we sing. 1, 2. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. For the Lord is present, and where Good. Could you feel that getting a little more relaxed? And as you keep the posture balanced and aligned and desire to allow this to vibrate but not be tense, you will find that range increases that fatigue decreases. Now let me have you do one more thing on the throat. Let me have this gentleman come up here and help me with this one. This is our last throat kind of exercise. Why don't you stand right here. Now, I want you to take your right hand and put it on my throat, right under here, and just feel what it does or doesn't do. Okay, did that vibrate?
Yeah.
Okay, was it doing anything else? Okay. Do you feel like doing that in front of all these people? Not what you would have chosen, but you're willing, right? Okay. Now, most of us are not going to be capable of going through the fullness of the register without some sort of a we call it a break. But it wasn't built in there. It's something we put in there. Your name is?
Joe.
Okay. Joe is going to help now. I want you to just do this, and I'm assuming that it's not going to be that smooth. I've been doing this for a few more years than your few seconds doing it here. Go ahead and just let it do whatever it wants. That's all right. That's all right. Start from the top this time and go, just start in a little baby voice and go, check posture, breathing. In fact, forget about the sound. Just think about, okay, I'm going to stand here rock solid, balanced, and make the noises this crazy man wants me to make.
Okay.
Good breath. Whatever comes out. Okay. Now that was not totally relaxed in there, was it?
That's not.
No. It wasn't totally smooth, but I know that as you work on this and as you desire to leave this totally relaxed and then start playing with it lightly, that you and everyone else and you will be able to then build in volume. And this will just stay very loose. Do you believe that's possible?
Sure.
All right, good. Thank you, Joe. Feel like you have a trapdoor here at the bottom of the abdomen, and the trapdoor drops down, and everything down to your toes just fills up with breath. I like that kind of a feeling. So just conceptually, I like to think of my front, sides, back, everything just gets huge with breath. And then when it's time to sing a long phrase, I don't get nervous, I don't get panicky, I'm not anxious about it because I've got everything I need to do the job.
Our guest for these next few minutes is Twyla Paris, a Christian singer who takes the gospel worldwide with a very powerful ministry. Join us now as we ask Twyla some questions, and she gives answers that I think will help you. Honey, why don't you begin?
Okay. Twyla, how long have you been singing for the Lord?
Well, I've been singing since I was 2 years old. My dad was a minister and stood me up on a chair to reach the microphone, and I began to sing at the age of 2, so...
Long time.
Yeah.
Great.
Wasn't exactly a professional at that point, but...
Not at 2.
Not at 2. At 3.
So most of your training has been more experience than any kind of formal training?
Yes, and osmosis. I was in a very musical family, I guess.
Well, when we got together a little while ago and started talking about some voice technique things, what things did we talk about? What impacted you, and what effect did it have on your concerts that next few weeks?
Well, we talked about posture.
Oh, yes.
And which is probably the thing that's the most, the biggest challenge for me, because I've, one of those kids of the 70s who's always sat like a pretzel on the couch, but I began to understand the value. I always thought, why is my mother telling me to stand up straight? She's old-fashioned, So here I am finally at this age, understanding the value of good posture, and the breathing, of course, is something that I knew about but wasn't that consciously aware of, and I find myself sometimes, if I'm struggling just a little bit on stage, all of a sudden I'll think, oh yes, and the big deep breaths, and so those are the two things that have made a difference for me immediately. My sound man even, I thought it was just my imagination, but the sound man said, you really sang better tonight. What was it,
Oh, great.
So,
that was after like 1 hour together. Yeah,
one
just
session, and I
time.
warmed up and before I sang, and I couldn't believe the difference. I thought that I was coming to you so that I wouldn't lose my voice in 10 years. You know, but really, I mean, an immediate effect.
What about in warming up, now that you know a little more about the voice, how do you warm up now? Is it a little different than you used to? Are you more aware of it? Confessions.
It's very different than I used to, let me say. I didn't warm up at all,
Sure.
ever. I mean,
Very
well, I
common.
might sing a little bit, you know, but usually at sound check was the first, you know, cough a little and start to sing. And I go in the back of the bus as I'm getting ready. First I go in the front of the bus and make sure no one's around. Then I go in the back of the bus and close the door and put in my trusty Chris Beatty warm-up tape.
Great.
And I warm up with you.
Wonderful,
So-
wonderful. Let's do something with posture here for a minute. Go ahead and lift your hands up as we did that day. Just feel that upright position before the Lord. And you can see how that immediately gets Twyla into an upright position. Then relax the arms, and let's do just a simple exercise. You didn't know we were going to do this. I'm not sure I knew we were going to do this. But let's just see how natural it feels to sing freely when you're in an upright position. Let's just go, me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. And take a breath. Me, 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 me. Now, go ahead and really slouch like the old pretzel, Twyla. And that just doesn't feel comfortable anymore, does
No,
it?
not at all.
No, when we start doing things the new way and the correct way, it really does make a difference. Something else that you'll probably start doing is cooling down after the concerts too, just like an athlete. And that's kind of the next step. We learn to warm up, we learn to cool the voice down just like an athlete, and then you open up all the possibilities of your voice. You're not limited to just the few things that you might have been doing. Well, praise the Lord. That's exciting to see someone grasp these things and feel immediate fruit. And in fact, that's what we are going to continue doing together right now. I'm going to move over to the piano now, and we're going to begin to go through a series of light exercises. I want you to join in and be thinking about posture. Be thinking about breathing. And if Carol wants you to check your posture, she may lift up on her strings here in front, or she may point to her throat to remind you to keep the throat very relaxed as we go through these exercises. I'm going to have you stay seated right now because I want you to be able to apply these exercises to a very comfortable position. Remember that you're standing from the waist, so let's check that posture. Posture okay? All right. We're going to start with this exercise. As we do, and this is a wonderful warm-up exercise, you will feel a lot of vibration and buzzing up in the face, and you'll start to realize that part of natural, free singing, when the posture is correct, when the breath is full and low, is that the head and the face start to vibrate a lot. Listen to this exercise, and after I've done it once, join me. Good low breath. Feel the face buzz. Watch your breathing. Good. Low breath. Could you feel your face is buzzing? You know why your face is buzz? Your face is buzz because you are a speaker cabinet. Honey, do we have our speaker cabinet picture there? You are a speaker cabinet. All good speaker cabinets have at least 2 speakers, and the smaller speaker is called what? The tweeter. Yeah, and does the tweeter amplify the high notes or the low notes? Primarily the high notes, and yet it's used to do overtones and harmonics for the lower notes too. Your face is your tweeter. Would you turn to somebody else and say, your face is your tweeter? Turn to someone, hey, your face is your tweeter. I want you to know that.
And your tweeter is supposed to always be functioning, because even in the lower notes, though the other speaker, what's that other speaker called? The woofer. Though the woofer is handling most of that, there are always harmonics and overtones that are playing. I can play this chord and make some higher notes really sound. Listen to this. I'm going to push down C, E, G, C, push them down without hitting the strings, and play some lower notes. Can you hear that? What you're hearing is the sympathetic vibrations, the harmonics, the overtones. So you have that same thing going on in your head. You're not singing the low notes, you're not singing these higher notes, but these higher notes are still sounding as part of the overtone series. So allow the head to freely vibrate as we do this exercise. Me, 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 me. Let the face just buzz. Me, 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 me. Yeah, feel your tweeter. Me, 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 me. Good. Again. Me, 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 me. Good. Feel it buzzing. Me, 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 me. Now listen to this different pattern. Me, 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 me. Good breath, good posture. Don't abuse a thing just because we're talking about some new areas here. Me, 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 me. Could you feel that vibrate? Now we're going to take it on our last exercise throughout a little wider range and just feel. The chest is going to vibrate, the face is going to vibrate. In fact, you can put your hand on your chest and your face and feel it happening as we go like this. Me, 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 me. Here we go. Me, 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 me. Good. Let it vibrate. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Good low breath. Feel the face buzz. Watch your breathing. Good. Low breath. Could you feel your face is buzzing? Me, 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 me. Let the face just buzz. Me, 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 me. Yeah, feel your tweeter. Me, 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 me. Good. Again. Me, 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 me. Good. Feel it buzzing. Me, 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 me. Now listen to this different pattern. Me, 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 me. Good breath, good posture. Don't abuse a thing just because we're talking about some new areas here. Me, 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 me. Could you feel that vibrate? Now we're going to take it on our last exercise throughout a little wider range and just feel. The chest is going to vibrate, the face is going to vibrate. In fact, you can put your hand on your chest and your face and feel it happening as we go like this. Me, 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 me. Here we go. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Good. Let it vibrate. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. My guest for these next few moments is Rick Florian, a friend of mine and lead singer from the Christian group White Heart. And I've prepared a few questions to go through with Rick so that we can both learn a little more about him and his singing. Hi.
Hi.
Rick, my first question is, how long have you been involved in singing?
Yeah, well, singing, as someone might call formally, not since I've been in White Heart, which was in about February of '86, but before that it was special music at church every once in a while and some things while I was in college. But I was a biology major in college, and I never really had... I stopped doing choir things really when I was early high school, so I haven't really been involved with music.
Okay. So this is the demands that you have vocally are kind of new then.
Yeah, they were pretty immediate. It was kind of a scary thing, right?
Yeah.
Thrust right into it.
And what style is it? How would you describe your style?
Well, anymore it's getting a lot more aggressive. Anything from a pop ballad-like thing to pretty aggressive rock and roll.
So you've got to be vocally in shape or it just doesn't happen, huh?
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, we got together a little while ago. You were right in the middle of doing vocals for your last album. Mm-hmm. And what prompted our getting together, and what were the results of it?
When we started doing vocals on the album, we've been off the road for a couple months, and I hadn't, I'm not one to keep my voice up or anything when we do concerts. I always just went out and did concerts, and we were off for a while, and we went in the studio to do vocals. And the first day, this album that we did was much more strenuous than any ones in the past, and so the combination of that with not having been warmed up at all, it just got trashed after about the first day and a half, and I had to lay off for about 4 or 5 days for it to get better enough to go back in the studio again.
So it became a major problem.
Yeah, when you're ready to do vocals, most of the other stuff is finished, so it kind of pushed the project behind a couple weeks, really.
Mm-hmm. And we got together, talked about posture and breathing and just the same things that we're doing here, thank you.
Yeah.
And what happened when you went back into the studio?
It was partially because of my trying to learn those things in such a short amount of time, but the times where I did use the concepts that we talked about, it was strange how often that they really did make a difference. I remember Brown saying once, that he was the one producing the album, that he reminded me, hey, pull that string thing again. And when I did that, he didn't tell me till later, but it was amazing to him how literally at that moment when I did that, it changed the sound of my voice when I was doing that. And
that's great.
It was amazing.
So just lifting up in your posture strength,
yes.
just like we're doing on the session today.
Yes.
That's great. What you do now? You didn't used to warm up. Has it changed the way you prepare for concerts?
Definitely. It was, and again, it was more out of, okay, since we had this session, let's do it, because it's probably, he says it's helpful for me, so I'll do it.
Sure.
It was really a thing that I've figured out later. It was a thing of pride, really, feeling that this is the way that God made me, so that's fine. I don't need to do anything, and which is really a bunch of garbage, because it was, and that's what I was kind of making of my voice, I think, in the long run. But as I would spend time warming up, it was amazing, It's funny because it was really kind of stupid in ways that I think through the past, and when I'm doing it now, it is just so much easier to go out on the stage and singing the first song isn't the warm-up, or when we're doing sound check, that's not the warm-up, that I've warmed up before, and that has helped me in stamina for the concerts, and I run around a lot in the concerts. I'm pretty hyperactive,
yes.
And not already having that capacity of lung that I need, having to use it with a voice that isn't trained was very difficult. But now the rehearsing and the time of preparation for it has been great for my voice.
That's great. That's great. Well, it just goes to show that where we put God's principles to work, there is immediate fruit and long-lasting fruit.
And as with Rick Florian, you too are going to experience some immediate and some wonderful changes in the way your voice works. Thanks for being with us.
Well, have you learned something about your voice today? We all have learned that proper preparation prevents poor performance. We've also learned that muscles have memory and that practice makes permanent. God created you this way. He gave you this acoustical tweeter here and this woofer here. He designed a posture that if you walk in it will allow your voice to be its freest, and the heartfelt messages that you want to share to family, to friends, to the Lord in worship will be more free, and they will be much, much clearer. Thank you for joining us for this vocal workshop.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us. As you can see, the rest of the people have gone home, but what Carol and I have shared with you from our hearts will change your life, but only if you put it into practice. So take the time to go back and deal with the difficult areas, whether it be the posture or the breathing, and begin to walk in and function in the fullness of these truths. And as it starts to change your life, tell a friend, because we really desire that each of us would use our voices the way God intended. Again, thank you, and God bless you.
To schedule an event with Chris and Carol, contact Tour Management Booking, 2909 Poston Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee, zip code 37203. Their phone number is area code 615-320-1986. Their fax number is area code 615-321-0915. For product or other information, contact Starsong at 2325 Crestmoor, Nashville, Tennessee, 37215. Starsong's phone number is area code 615-269-0196. Their fax number is area code 615-385-2708. Be sure to see the full line of teaching materials from the Vocal Fitness Center at Starsong. The Vocal Coach video, almost 3 hours of interactive vocal training. Included on these 2 VHS videos are interviews with Steve Green, Twyla Paris, and Rick Florian. The Vocal Coach video is $59.95. The Vocal Coach audio tape series, which is only $39.95, is a 6-cassette tape series. It includes the full workshop as well as 2 daily exercise tapes. The Vocal Coach newsletter is for everyone who sings or speaks for the Lord. This bi-monthly publication, which includes 2 cassette tapes each year, is only $29.95 for a 1-year subscription. To order the Vocal Coach video and audio tapes or the Vocal Coach newsletter, contact Starsong at 2325 Crestmoor, Nashville, Tennessee, zip code 37215. Their phone number is area code 615-269-0196. Their fax number is 615-385-2708. The Vocal Workout Series is available from your local Christian bookstore as well as from Starsong. It includes a number of exciting interactive teaching tools. The individual audio cassettes cover practical topics like breathing, tone, and learning how to effectively warm up and cool down the voice. Diction, blend, and other topics are also part of this life-changing and voice-changing audio series. Each tape is only $9.95. Be sure to visit your local Christian bookstore or contact Starsong.